Hello, everyone. In this session, we will be diving into another crucial aspect of debating and public speaking, which is Chapter 2, Topic and Motion. Before we jump into motion creation, now, let's outline what we'll be covering in this video lecture. First, topic and types of topics. Second, motion and categories of motions. Third, identifying types of motions. And finally, how to create a debate motion. To begin with, let's start with topic and types of topics. But before I go any further, I do want to know your ideas of what is a topic in public speaking. Thank you for your answer, everyone. That's an interesting answer. A topic in the context of public speaking is the subject or theme a speaker chooses to address during a speech or presentation. Topics can cover a wide range of themes, from science and technology to politics, education, culture, health, personal development, and much more. The topic serves as the foundation of the speech, shaping the content, structure, and overall message the speaker intends to convey to the audience. Now, before we dive into the different types of topics, I'd like to ask you all to take a guess. How many types of topics are there in public speaking? Thank you for the answer, everyone. For the IFL Debate Club, we divide the type of topics into three, which are bounded, semi-bounded, and freestyling. Bounded topics refer to a set of clear, focused areas that the speaker should stick to. This means the speaker must not jump around between unrelated topics, but instead stay within a few well-defined subject areas. For example, the impact of artificial intelligence on the job market, strategies for reducing plastic waste in consumer products, the role of renewable energy in combating climate change. As you can see, all of these topics are bounded, meaning the speaker must stay within a defined scope. So if the topic is the impact of artificial intelligence on the job market, the speaker must focus exclusively on the positive or negative effects of AI on the job market, without talking about unrelated areas. Semi-bounded topics refer to topics that have some defined structure, but still allow for more flexibility and openness compared to strictly bounded topics. Hence, the speaker is given a general theme or broad subject area to address, but has more freedom to determine the specific focus and scope of the presentation. For instance, the future of education, innovations in sustainable design, the role of the arts in society. These topics are all semi-bounded, meaning the speakers have some flexibility to narrow down the scope of the topic. For example, if the speaker is discussing the future of education, they can choose to focus on specific aspects, such as the role of technology in education in the future, the shift towards online learning, or any other scope, while still staying within the general theme of the future of education. Freestyling refers to presentations that have no predetermined topic or structure. This approach gives the speaker complete freedom to choose what they want to discuss and how they want to approach it. You can see these types of speeches in keynote speeches at conferences, panel discussions, and motivational talks. Moving on to Section 2, Motion and Categories of Motions. Before we begin, I would like to ask you another question. What is a motion in debate? Thank you for your answer. Motion is the topic that the debate will be focused on. It normally starts with the following phrases and then follows the main idea's topic of the debate. For example, this House believes that THBT, this House would THW, this House, TH plus verb, rejects, supports, etc. Before we explore the categories of motion, I'd like to pose a question to all of you. How many categories of motion do you think exist in debate? Thank you for the answer, everyone. At the IFL Debate Club, we divide the categories of motion into three, which are fact, value, and policy. These are the major categories that we would normally focus on. First, fact motions assert that something is true or false. They focus on verifiable statements or factual interpretations about reality that can be tested or proven. It is the most basic and straightforward sort of motion. Very much like a court decision, guilty or not guilty, a factual determination. For example, a fact motion might state, "This House believes that advertising does more harm than good for society." This house believes that China and the USA will be allies in the 21st century. In this case, the debate revolves around evidence and data that can confirm or refute the claim. Second, value motions involve judgments about worth or importance. They require debaters to argue whether something has inherent value or not. Hence, debaters must identify the values or characteristics of the key term in the motion, define those values clearly, and then use them to structure their arguments. The goal is to explain why something is important or not. For example, a value motion might state, "This house believes that animal testing is morally wrong." "This house believes that Shakespeare is the world's greatest writer." For the first motion, it invites discussion about ethical considerations and moral frameworks of the term morally wrong, rather than empirical evidence. As the second motion, you must develop a list of criteria for what makes a greatest writer. Finally, policy motions advocate for a specific course of action, especially for a government. They typically begin with phrases like, "This House would," THW, and propose that something should or should not be done. An example of a policy motion is, "This House would implement a universal basic income." "This House would legalize prostitution." So debaters must argue for or against the proposed policy, considering its implications and feasibility. Moving on to Section 3, Identifying Types of Motions. After learning about the three major categories of motions, let's dive deeper into the specific types of motions. These can be easily identified by their headings, how the motion begins, and by what they require the debaters to do. There are 6 types of motion that we will cover today. These are analysis motions, policy motions, regrets motions, prefers a world, motions, actor motions, and hypothetical motions. First, analysis motions. These motions typically start with "This House believes that," THBT, "This House supports," THS, or "This House opposes," THO. They require debaters to analyze the value of the motion and argue whether it is true or beneficial. For example, "This House supports the rapid global elimination of both tariff and non-tariff barriers to free trade," asks teams to evaluate the merits of this elimination. Before we move on, which of the following is an analysis debate motion? Policy motions. As we previously discussed, policy motions often begin with "This House would," THW, and focus on the merits and demerits of a specific policy. Debaters must argue for or against the implementation of a policy, assuming it will be enacted. An example is, "This House would ban plastic bottles," where teams discuss the implications of such a ban. Thirdly, regrets motions. These motions often start with "This House regrets," THR, and require teams to reflect on past events and their outcomes and then argue why they regret them. An example is, "This House regrets the romanticization of true love on social media," where teams must discuss whether or not the negative consequences of this romanticization of true love are harmful. Fourth, prefers a world. Motions. These motions are phrased as "This House prefers," THP, and require debaters to argue why a proposed scenario is preferable to the current situation. For instance, "This House prefers a world where remote work remains the norm after COVID-19," asks teams to compare this new world with the status quo. Fifth, actor motions. In actor motions, debaters take on the role of a specific individual, organization, or country and argue from that perspective. These motions are phrased as "This House as someone." For example, "This House as a new artist would focus on replicating existing art over creating new art," requires teams to analyze the interests of the specified actor rather than broader societal implications. Sixth, hypothetical motions. These motions involve unusual scenarios or fictional contexts, often requiring debaters to engage in abstract thought experiments. They can be divided into 2 classes. First, unusual actor motions. These involve specific individuals in detailed scenarios, such as, "This house would help cover up their child's involvement in a crime." Second, fictional worlds. Motions. These require debaters to discuss scenarios that do not exist in reality, such as debating the ethics of actions in a world with superpowers. For instance, "This house would ban superheroes." Now, as we learn these various types of debate motion, let's do a few practices. Moving on to the last section of our chapter. 4. How to create a debate motion. Debate motion is one of the determiners of the outcomes of many debates. Whether you win or lose the debate depends on how much you understand the motion and your schemata regarding the issues suggested by the motion. Additionally, creating a motion is also important because if a motion is bad, then the debate will be bad. Hence, before we learn how to create a motion, it is best that we learn how to identify a bad motion. Hence, there are 4 types of motion that we can consider as a bad motion. First, simple facts. A debate motion should not focus on statements that are universally accepted as facts, especially those that are too simple or indisputable. If something is a clear fact, like this house believes that Cambodia is a country, there's no real room for disagreement or debate. The purpose of debate is to explore issues with multiple perspectives, not to confirm basic facts. Second, data-driven motions. A motion should also avoid being based purely on raw data or information that leads to a predictable conclusion. This is similar to the simple facts issue because it often reduces the debate to whether or not the government can present or interpret the data correctly, rather than engaging with the broader, more complex issue at hand. For example, this House believes that corporate social responsibility, CSR, is becoming a market strategy, would force debaters to rely on statistics, such as the number of companies using CSR or their financial returns from it, which narrows the debate and makes it about numbers rather than ideas. This limits the depth of the discussion. Third, resolved issues. A good motion should be about issues that are relevant and still open for discussion. If an issue has already been resolved or is no longer a significant concern, debating it becomes meaningless. The motion should address something that still invites debate, rather than something settled or no longer important. Finally, overly technical. Debaters come from diverse backgrounds with different areas of expertise. Sometimes, motion creators may choose topics based on their own specific knowledge or academic interests, but these topics might not be accessible to all debaters. For example, expecting debaters from financial background to understand highly technical subjects, like dam construction in Southeast Asia, can make the debate unfair or inaccessible to some. A good motion should be something that most debaters can engage with, regardless of their academic background. Now, to explain how to create a debate motion, let's use a simple metaphor of buying an ice cream. I will walk you through the 4 steps from brainstorming to finalizing the motion, much like buying your favorite ice cream. Step 1. Choose the flavor. Start by selecting a broad issue that's central to current discussions. For example, popular topics you may have seen on social media such as weddings, posting pictures of children on social media, or what women should wear. Then identify the core value behind the issue, such as equality, media literacy, human rights, or development. Alternatively, you can start with a value and then find a related issue. Step 2. Choose your toppings. The toppings are the verbs commonly used in debate motions. These define the type of motion you're creating. Do you want an analysis motion, a policy motion, a regret motion, a prefers a world motion, an actor motion, or a hypothetical motion? Once you've decided on the type, it is easy for you to determine the starting phrase, such as, this house believes, this house supports, this house would, etc. Step 3. Place your order. Write your debate motion. You can draft several versions to compare and decide which one works best. Focus on clarity and the potential for strong arguments on both sides. Step 4. Eat your ice cream. Once you have your motion, test it by debating it yourself. Think of at least one strong argument for both the government and opposition sides. This helps you determine whether the motion is debatable and avoids the pitfalls of bad motions. It's also the time to check the scope and definitions in your motion. Remember, while some concepts might be new to debaters, they shouldn't require technical expertise. If necessary, use context or information slides to explain any complex terms or issues. To wrap up, we've covered the essential elements of crafting a great topic and debate motion. from understanding the types of topics and motions to identifying different motion categories and learning the key steps in motion creation. By following these guidelines, you'll be better equipped to create engaging and thought-provoking motions and topics that spark meaningful debate. Remember, a good motion in debate is the foundation of any great debate. It shapes the arguments, defines the scope of discussion, and challenges both sides to think critically. Whether you're participating in a debate or creating one, understanding these steps is crucial to your success. Thank you all for your attention and participation today. I hope this session has been insightful and that you feel more confident in creating and analyzing public speaking topics and debate motions. If you have any questions or want to explore any concepts further, feel free to reach out.